All right, on this episode of Bare Knuckle Bowker, very excited to be chatting to an individual headlining BKFC 64, which goes down on August the 10th. And that UK Welterweight Championship is on the line, and that aforementioned headliner as Jonny Graham knuckles up and toes the line against Connor Tierney. And great getting to have Connor on Bare Knuckle Bowker. How are you doing so far, man? You having a solid day?
Yeah, I'm having a good time. Yep.
And just great to see you kind of back in the fold here for sure. I mean, it's been a little bit since we've seen you in the bare knuckle realm. Like you've had some gloved boxing since then, but what's the, I guess, general feeling heading back into the bare knuckle space here?
Well, I would have been inactive now for nearly 16 months up until this fight. And yeah, I don't think they had anything for me. And I just felt a little bit left out in the dark. But they give me a massive opportunity to fight for a UK welterweight title, to be the first ever UK welterweight champion in history, to become a pioneer. And yeah, it's been a long time, but in that time, mentally regained everything that I ever I should have had in the previous fight. I'm a lot mentally stronger, a lot fitter, and there's a completely different version of me going into this next one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, what would you say those big differences are and what you kind of learned from that last bare knuckle fight you had there?
So before I fought Lindsay, I was out the gym for like 4 or 5 months. Then I jumped in the gym about a month before, ticked over, then started an 8 week camp. I never actually trained like a professional athlete. One thing Dave Bowman always said to me was, you need to take this serious, and I just didn't take it serious. And although like there was controversy of the stoppage, etc., it didn't take away the fact that I lost the fight. And I threw it away by being stupid and not taking my career seriously. But that's completely woke me up this time, and I've just had a new lease of life, and I'm a completely different fighter now.
Yeah, and a lot to talk about specifically in bare knuckle, but I did kind of reference the boxing foray. Like, what was that whole experience like getting a gloved boxing bout in for Kingpyn? And I guess, can you just speak to the ability to kind of concurrently compete in different combat sports? Like, obviously, the bare knuckle focus is solely with
Yeah,
BKFC, but just getting to compete in some outside combat sports also as well.
yeah, it's good. It was good experience. I think more for me, I took the fight short notice. I'd been training, but I wasn't really training too hard. I was actually on holiday when they called me up. And I went and took the fight because of the exposure on the zone. Basically, just getting my name out there. Fought King Cowley, who's a massive name in Dublin, in his hometown, 6,000 in the crowd. It was just a really good experience. Just to sort of feel that size of the event, and fight under the lights and that pressure. It was good. It was good experience for me, to be honest. So if anything, for that, I didn't really like. I don't even count that as a loss or a victory. It was just a bit like getting out there and doing an experience with the glove boxing, as opposed to the bare knuckle, but mainly to boost the profile a bit more.
Yeah, for sure, because it seems like it's in that, like, I guess, like influencer-ish kind of space, like just to say it maybe would attract a certain potential like newer audience to Connor Tierney and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, great to see you back in the bare knuckle picture though, and everything like that. And like you said, this title opportunity, like when did it initially kind of get on your radar, even like in terms of like this UK championship opportunity and whatnot?
I think when the UK titles came about, um, I just, I love the BKFC bouts. I think they're just really nice looking bouts. And I've won titles in other organisations. I was the BKB UB World Champion. I was a prize fighter champion. And I just thought it was a perfect opportunity, to win a bout, to become a champion in BKFC as a UK champion, and then look towards obviously world titles. So I had my eyes on that bout ever since it got released, and I just really wanted one. Like I love the look of them. Obviously they've brought out the silver versions now for the UK, but they're just an extremely attractive bout. Something that I really, really like. Can't wait to get my hands on. To be fair, um, perfect opportunity for me to go on now, do a massive display again, come back the old Conor Tierney, but in a completely new version of myself, which is enhanced and better, a better performance. go out in style and get about and become a champion, will put me obviously back in that top 5 contention. Then I reckon for a world title.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly get you right back in there. I mean, we were referencing the Jake Lindsey fight. I mean, he's number 2 right now and has that fight against former champion and number 4 contender Elvin Brito coming up. Like, I feel like you could situate yourself right there in the hierarchy. Like, there's that Rico Franco, Austin Trout title fight coming up later on in the calendar year. It just seems like there's a lot of activity at welterweight, and a win right here could certainly get you right back in that mix for sure.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just the fact that I headlined against Lindsay, and in 16 months out, I'm headlining an event again for BKFC, a numbered event, which goes to show you that the company obviously know that I do big things for the company. You know what I mean? I'm a big name, and I should be back at the top soon. I just gotta get this performance done. This is just a job to me now. I'm literally training every day like it's a chore. It's a task. I'm also working full time as a surveyor. So I just realistically now I just want the fight to come round. I can get the job done, put a performance on, win this belt, and then I can look at the future then and what comes then.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like you even kind of had like a promotion within that job. Like it looked like you were a senior quantity
Yeah,
surveyor somewhat recently. So, I mean, that's cool to hear too. Seems like you're, making growth in that regard too. So, love to see it.
yeah, thank you, man. Yeah. So everything's going well at the moment for me. Things are looking up. I think close the year. I say close the year out. I'd like to have a fight after, but all depends what the company's got planned for me when I come through this. So yeah, just hopefully things keep going in the right direction, onwards and upwards now.
Yeah, and you did touch on your accomplishments within other circuits, like the prize fighter tournament title and whatnot, and being a BKB champion as well. And I guess I was curious to get your thoughts on not like super recent, but just all the same, curious to get your thoughts on that relatively recent acquisition whereby BKB, merged the BKB brand into what they're doing and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I think BKB have sort of gone stale when they're in competition with a huge organisation as such as BKFC. They're not gonna be number one, are they? So I think Mike had taken over BKB with BYB was a really good shout, to be fair, because you know it improves the stable of fighters. You know, it improves the quality of world title fights. You know, it's not just any Tom, Dick, and Harry getting a world title fight. Now you're having to fight across the pond to get world title fights, which is brilliant realistically. So I do think that's a good move. Um, BYB for me, realistically, it's not my cup of tea. I mean, I got offered good money to go, like really good money, I'd go. Obviously, if I wasn't a BKFC fighter, but I'm a boxer and fighting in a triangle ring for 3 minutes, it just doesn't really. It's not my cup of tea. I like to box, you know what I mean, and move and the high work rate. Being stuck in a triangle for 3 minute rounds, it's just a brawler, isn't it? That's what it is, backyard brawling, and I'm not a brawler, so that's more suited to other fighters.
Yeah, it doesn't really like breed a lot of, I guess, opportunities for that kind of like lateral movement or kind of like outside work, right?
Yeah, no, don't.
But yeah, curious to get your thoughts on this opponent here because I mean, so far has not tasted defeat within bare knuckle. Obviously, your experience advantage is evident, but I mean, 2-0 with 2 KOs all the same. Like, what are your thoughts on, I guess, Jonny Graham in terms of his skill set and I guess general resume so far heading into this inaugural UK welterweight title fight?
I think he's a decent fighter. I think he's good. He's a good boxer. He's an ex-pro. I think he's done a bit of K1 or Thai boxing. I'm not too sure. Don't really look too much into the background. From what I've seen of him, he's got pros and he's got cons. He's got flaws. Um, we had two tune-up opponents. There were two KOs, and when we say KOs, it wasn't knockouts. There were just stoppages where they quit basically. And there was almost like last minute standings. So he hasn't really been tested. He hasn't been proven. He hasn't gone to the trenches. He hasn't been dropped. He hasn't been knocked out. He hasn't lost. So, he's had two fights, two tune-ups. He's never been on a co-main or a main or not even a feature. So it's massive for him. It's a banana skin fight for me because he's actually technically quite a good boxer. So if I win, I'm expected to win. If I lose, then I've got where do I go then? Whereas for Johnny, if he loses, he's expected to lose, and if he wins, it's a major shock, isn't it? So it's a banana skin fight for me to take, to be fair, but he's a risky opponent, and I've trained like I would have for Austin Trout or anyone else.
Yeah, because as much as we were kind of talking before about your, I guess, general goal beyond to like eventually get that world title, it's like you need to focus on the immediate task at hand because, like you said, if you end up losing this fight, it could definitely like knock you down in the
Yeah, yeah,
hierarchy, whereas like a win here could get you like right in that mix.
yeah, of course. And like say, I don't really want to. I'm not even thinking about losing, but I wouldn't want to put myself in that position. For me now, it's a win. It's going in there. Whether it's a knockout, whether it's a 5 round, just dismantling him, or whether it's a scrappy fight and it's a victory. Either way, I just got to get the win now. Got to get the win. That's all I care about. It's all I think about daily. When I go to sleep, when I wake up, throughout the day, continue to just manifest the fact that I'm going to win this fight. And I'm just training harder than I've ever trained for this fight as well. That's why my horses training was constantly tired at the moment. I'm working 5 days. I'm training two times a day as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to just getting it done now. If I'm honest with you, I think it's quite been a long camp. I started my camp about 12 weeks out, and then the proper camp was about 8, but 4 weeks of hard training, and then 8 weeks of camp as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was seeing an article on the BKFC site, like you had kind of made the distinction for Graham where his stoppages were more oriented to like, I guess like TKOs, like his opponents
Yeah.
retiring to use that kind of like boxing centric language and whatnot. But I'd seen in the article where you were like predicting the fight and you're like, oh yeah, knockout for sure. He's getting folded like a freshly ironed
Yeah.
shirt.
Yeah, no, of course. And obviously, like, there is a game plan, and I do see him getting knocked out. I do see him getting frustrated. But obviously, at the end of the day, I have to just think, right, this is a 5 round fight. I have to plan for 5 round. I've trained for 5 round, and when I'm in flow state, when I'm moving and I'm boxing and I'm picking and you know what I mean, and I'm starting to perfect it, the knockout will come. If it don't come, he gets beat regardless. But if he does get caught with a shot that I know I'm going to catch him with, he will get folded.
And I mean, there's been so many references to, I guess, like Conor McGregor over your career, just in terms of like, I guess
Yeah.
drawing a certain sense of inspiration from that, wanting to like grow your own brand, and I guess certain similarities even. Like, it seems like you're pretty excited about the McGregor ownership stake in Bare Knuckle
Yeah.
nowadays. Can you talk a bit about that?
I think BKFC really needed it, to be honest. I think obviously they were going in the right direction anyway, but I feel like this is just an extra boost. You've got the biggest name in combat sports history currently now, one of the highest grossing combat sports athletes in the world, who's now got a part ownership in BKFC, who's now promoting the events, who's now going to the press conferences, who will be going to the fights more and more, promoting the fighters. I think it's perfect now. This is the perfect opportunity to make a statement. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, it has been kind of interesting to follow. I wasn't even really planning to ask this necessarily, but like, what were your thoughts on that whole development where he said like Mike Perry was fired from BKFC after his boxing loss to Jake Paul? I think I'd heard some rumblings that David Feldman might be coming out to address that statement somewhat soon, but like,
yeah.
I guess what were your thoughts on all of that if you happened to catch
I
it?
just I didn't like that. To be fair, I thought that was a bit bad. Mike Perry's done a lot for the promotion, whether it was his last fight for the company or what or not. He's done absolutely massive things for the promotion. He's been on the biggest cards. He attracts the most attention. And even when he fought Jake Paul, he was off the back of BKFC. He wasn't a UFC fighter. He was a BKFC fighter, and it was bringing a lot of it. It was bringing more publicity to BKFC. So I think that's just Connor being Connor, isn't it? Connor hates Jake Paul, and because he lost, Connor just decided to take it out on Mike Perry.
Yeah, that was kind of how I'd read that too. I was talking to a fighter actually on this BKFC 64 card about that recently, just kind of read as that kind of dynamic as you outlined. But there was
Yeah.
something with you that I was kind of noticing recently that I kind of wanted to touch on. Like, it seems like you're the subject of a documentary and whatnot. Like, can you talk about that a bit? That sounds exciting. It seemed like you were getting that going and just everything. So, just really curious to hear about that, the rise of a bare knuckle fighter and just documenting your personal story.
Yeah, that was about a year of filming. We'd filmed a documentary. It's now on YouTube. I think it's got about 30 odd thousand views now. And it's basically my life. Um, Being a full-time bare knuckle fighter, the camp, the rigs aftermath, the training, the whole camp was evolved around Joe Elmore, as well as working full-time, being a dad as well, you know what I mean, and having my partner. It's so I think it just was good because it opened the eyes to a lot of people who don't know about the sport. And a lot more people have started to who watch that see me as like, you know, I'm a white collar person. I work in an office as a businessman who's by night fighting bare knuckle, training like an athlete every day and doing things completely different to any other person in a normal everyday life. So I think yeah, that documentary, you know, it done a lot of things, it done a lot of good things for me. To be fair, I got a lot of good publicity from it.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. I feel like the documentary kind of medium is a great driver for bare knuckle. Like, obviously, this didn't exist in the kind of like big production or formally regulated kind of way that bare
Uh,
knuckle has been nowadays. But that knuckle documentary with like the gypsy travelers fighting each other and stuff like
yeah,
that, I feel like that drove a lot of attention. And I guess kind of even tying it into that UFC 304 event from over the weekend, like Tom Aspinall was kind of making that comment
yeah,
about joking that he soaked his hands in the petrol, kind of like
yeah,
referencing a character from that Knuckle documentary and stuff like that. I felt like some people kind of missed that, or I guess like the cheeky kind of nature of it. But yeah, just to say
yeah.
that it seems like documentaries and that kind of medium is a great driver for like certain awareness for bare knuckle and general growth.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's right, to be honest. I think you're right there.
Yeah, but that's great to hear and cool to, see that whole process was, such a fun time for you and just kind of documenting that period in your career. But yeah, cool to see the next chapter in the story unfurl coming up here. I guess just
Yeah.
and kind of being mindful of your time here, man. I'm kind of curious if maybe there was any kind of final parting thought you may have wanted to add as we're sort of wrapping up here, though. I do appreciate the time.
I think, yeah, thank you for reaching out to me and give me opportunity to do an interview. And anyone who watches, just know that, you know, this is a completely different version of myself going into this next fight. And the sky's the limit after this when we take the belt and we're a champion. And yeah, I can't wait to get back into that title contention for the world.
I guess like kind of working one more in is like before we're wrapping up here, like who do you see as being the world champion if everything kind of falls into place with your fight here and just going forward? Like, do you ultimately think you will be fighting Rico Franco, or do you see yourself towing the line against Austin Trout, I suppose?
I, I don't see Rico Franco beat Austin Trout. And let's be honest, look, Rico's a great fighter. Can't take nothing away from him. But when he beat Caleb, Caleb was terrible. Caleb looked awful. And the last two opponents before that were nothing. So, realistically, in my opinion, I don't understand how they give Rico a shot before they give Carlos Trinidad Snake a shot. But you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I'd rather Rico Franco win. It's an easier fight than Austin Trout. Austin's a hard fight. He's a difficult fighter. He's got some of the best IQ in the game in BKFC because of his boxing background. So it'll be an interesting one. I'll definitely be watching anyway.
Yeah, but I'll definitely be watching your fight coming up here on
Thank
August
you, man.
10th. I mean, it should be a great one at BKFC 64 against Jonny Graham. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on Bare Knuckle
Thank
Bowker
you.
ahead of this inaugural BKFC UK welterweight title fight. And yeah, just hope you have a good rest of your day, man. And thanks so much for the time.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, man. I'll see you later. All right. See ya.